Okay, I'm experiencing a little bit of a rough idle in this 2010 Ford Escape that not sure what it is, so I'm going to clean the mass airflow sensor, check the spark plugs. This is a pretty handy tool that I got from Lowe's. It's going to help. It's got all your different bits in here. It's kind of old, so it's got every bit, just about every bit here you could need. Torx head. It doesn't have the one with the hole in the middle. Those are pretty handy on some cars. On this 2010 Ford Escape, we're going to be using a T20 Torx head bit, star some people call it, to get the mass airflow sensor out. There's only 2 bolts, 2 screws basically, so don't lose them because it's a long way down. To disconnect the connector, you're just going to pull up this red tab and it comes right off like that. Don't pull by the wires. You pull these wires from these pins in here, it will ruin your day. So here's the mass airflow sensor. Here's what I'm going to clean it with. So basically, you've got these wires in here, sensors, that you do not touch. And Ford did a good job shielding this so you can't get to it. So all I'm going to do, spray it with this, and that's it. Just give it a good liberal cleaning in there, let it dry, put it back in. Installation is reverse of removal. Should be good and dry now. Make sure you put it back in exactly the way it came out. Pay attention to that. You cannot get it in backwards. The holes don't line up, so Ford did something good with that. Not so sure about other cars. Just snug it down. Keep in mind you're going into plastic, so you don't want to break it. Snug is good. Put your cable back on. Should go on easy. If it's hard to get in there, you're probably bending pins, and that will ruin your day too, so be very careful. Don't forget to push the red tab back in. I like the 4-cylinder for ease of maintenance. All your spark plugs are here on top, connected to a coil pack, which just comes like this, comes off easy. It's got 1 screw, which is 8 millimeters. And your spark plug is down in the well down here. You'll see it. You'll need an extension, the appropriate size socket, which is 5/8. And I like using the sockets with a black grommet inside, which holds the spark plug for you. Makes it a lot easier to put in for installation. Now these plugs look pretty darn good. They look like they have been changed recently, and they're burning quite well. At least this one is burning very nicely. So what I'm going to do when I put it back in, I do this on all my cars. Because you're putting a steel threaded object into an aluminum head, cylinder head, you want to make sure you put some anti-seize lubricant on the threads. That'll keep these from fusing together from corrosion, because aluminum and steel don't really like each other. and they can cause a problem. You don't need a lot of it, just get it on the threads best you can. Don't saturate it. Don't saturate it with the compound, and then put it back in and torque it accordingly. Torque it in accordance with the manufacturer's specifications. Me personally, I've never had a problem with just getting them tight. That goes in nice. The NICs will save the threads in your cylinder head. And just snug them up. So that one's good, so I'll just put that right back down over it. Put the screw back in, and I'm even going to put some looks like they might add Loctite on these, but I'm going to put a little bit of NICs right on the ends, the end of these bolts. Pretty much do on everything. Okay, I'm going to leave that screw loose, and then leave the cable loose, and at the end I'll tighten those all up as their own step. Connect all of the connectors and then tighten down all the screws. Try and find a method that makes sure you get everything back the way it's supposed to be. You don't want to leave anything loose, that could be a problem. So the idle on this thing is just kind of annoying. It runs fine on the highway. It doesn't stall. It just idles a little bit rough. Not exactly sure what it is. If the mass airflow sensor doesn't take care of it, I'm going to go ahead and pull it up on my scan tool. Blue Driver scan tool is the only one I have, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. And again, this plug looks excellent. So I'll put some anti-seize on here and a little bit on this screw, just a wee bit. Spread it around, put it back in. This is a new to me vehicle. I just bought this for my daughter, so I'm not familiar with it at all. It's got 90,000 miles on it, and I got a very good deal on it. So it's clean, it runs good, the interior's in very good condition. And should be a good vehicle. Just a little snug. Here's a tip. These come out of there, which is not a good thing, so you want to avoid losing those down into the abyss of the engine compartment. Get them tight. Finger tight, that is. Take this out. Check this plug. This is all the same stuff you'll do to put new spark plugs in. The only extra step would be checking the gap on the new spark plugs to make sure they are gapped for your particular engine application, which should be in your owner's manual, or you can find them online. Again, these look really nice. So if nothing else, I'm doing some preventive maintenance with the anti-seize on the threads, and it's also peace of mind that I know it's got good spark plugs in it and I don't have to worry about them for a while. Where did that coil go? Okay. Again, I'm just going to spread this around a little bit. Doesn't take a whole lot. You get the idea. Okay, this is the last spark plug. I'm thinking it's number 4 in the cylinder head numbering system, and it's got some oil here, which I'm a little bit concerned about. That is probably telling me that the valve cover gasket is leaking oil down into the spark plug well, which is not uncommon. Matter of fact, I'm gonna go ahead and spray this off with this. That's how it should look. Anti-seize. The only thing I didn't do on this, just because I drove it and it felt okay, was a compression test. It's got 90,000 on it, and I have no idea what kind of life it had before I bought it. Compression test would tell a lot, and if you can get a dealer to let you do that on the lot, that's all right. If you ever buy a new car and you pay a mechanic to check it over, make sure he does a compression test. A used car, that is. If you pay a mechanic to check it out, that should be one of the things that he does that's very important. Because if you got, what is it? All of them should be within 10% of each other. So if you've got one that's lower than that, then you're going to need piston rings or a valve job, most likely. You want to either pass on the car or get it for less than what they're asking, because that could be expensive. Alright, a little bit here. Okay, so the spark plugs are in. They're all tight. Now the next step is to, for me, is to put the bolts back in that hold the ignition coils down. These were pretty tight in here. I'm not going to put them in so tight. If you use a speed handle for this, just be careful you don't run them down too tight. Make sure that you have to pretty much go by feel that your spark plug boots go down over the spark plug. Shouldn't be that big of an issue. Now, because these are in plastic inside of a brass insert, I am not going to tighten these very tight at all. Okay, and last step, reconnect your coil wires to the appropriate coil, which you shouldn't be able to get that mixed up. These are all laid out pretty nice, to where there's no way you could get this one mixed up with that one. That's a good thing. I don't know if you can tell this or not, but it doesn't seem that fixed the rough idle scenario. I mean, the thing runs fine, but it's just annoying to me, being mechanically inclined and knowing how my other vehicles work. It's just a little annoying. Stay tuned and subscribe for more videos from Jay Hunto's Garage.